Hello, folks. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm the host, Jim Massey. Well, I have brought to you before in various videos reports on what's going on with the plastic pollution of the oceans. And now, recently, I did a video about nanoplastics in our food that's basically killing people, messing up the endocrine system, causing changes in metabolism, which if the person has the right genetic constitution, will cause them to become obese. So I've discussed with you how plastics been everywhere in the oceans. Microplastics have been found from the Arctic Ocean down into the Marianas, etc. You're probably all familiar with the great garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. Well, it's only getting worse. Basically, human garbage is just smothering the oceans. So, humans have that, you get rid of throwing out in the ocean, right? It's out of sight, problem solved. Well, no, it's not. I don't know how many times, for example, there are videos of trash barges coming out of, say, New York City, and they're just sailing out into the middle of somewhere, and then they dump all that shit overboard. Well, this is all coming back to bite us in the ass. Okay? And so the human garbage is everywhere from, the Marianas Trench, the ocean a bit, the coastal muds, and so on. In the next 30 years, an estimated 3 billion metric tons of human garbage, which will include anything from abandoned trawl nets, plastic bottles, teacups, cans, metal cans, finding its way onto the ocean floor. Okay? And don't forget, plastic is a petroleum product. A recent survey in the Strait of Messina, now that's the little seaway that separates Italy and Sicily, measured this detritus at concentrations between 121,000 and 1.3 million items per square kilometer trapped in submarine canyons. In seabed fissures off Portugal, human litter large enough to identify have been counted at rates of 11,000 per square kilometer. Off the Ryukyu Islands, far from mainland Japan, divers and remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, have made estimates of up to 71,000 items per square kilometer. This is just, excuse the pun, tip of the iceberg. It is worse and worse lying in other parts of the seabed. An estimated 1 million tons of chemical weaponry could be scattered about the planet's ocean. So that's chemicals. And probably chemicals from munitions, which contain very nasty stuff, which will do very grave harm to nearby organisms, or even further from the point of ground zero, if you will. The North Sea floor could be host to 1.3 million tons of conventional and chemical weapons. The Baltic unfolds and flows over 385,000 tons of drop bombs, grenades, torpedoes, landmines, other weaponry. New study in the journal Environmental Research Letters, this conversion of sea floor to basically a landfill creates problems for at least 693 marine species that so far have been observed to interact with marine debris, either eating it, getting caught in it, growing on it. Of these species, approximately 1 in 6 are in some degree endangered. The list includes 93 kinds of invertebrates, 89 fish, 83 birds, 38 mammals, even a species of sea turtle. So many fish now become ensnared in abandoned and derelict fishing gear. We have a new phrase for it: ghost catches, because they're never going to be harvested, but they're caught anyway. Across the Asia-Pacific region, an estimated 11.1 billion, billion bits of plastic larger than 25 millimeter could be entangled in the coral reefs. Right? Usually, if it's 5 millimeters or smaller, it's called microplastic. This is even bigger than that. And then we get into the nanoplastics, as I described in a prior video, about how that's getting into our food and we're ingesting. Every one of us has ingested nanoplastics in our bodies. Let that sink in. We all have been contaminated with plastics. And on that point, the problem with marine pollution, it goes well beyond the concern over the bulk plastic pollution, of the seas and the shorelines and so on, but it's now found in marine tissues. Much of the prior concern has been about the presence of microfibers and the small particles of polymer material now found everywhere. A new study by European scientists tries to address the more obvious problem of these larger items, generally larger than 25 millimeters, of all kinds of detritus, including plastic denser than water, and ultimately, will ultimately hit the seabed. It'll just sink right through the water column. So they wanted to find ways standard ways to measure the level of waste, map its concentrations accurately, identify all the sources of the garbage, classify the most problematic kinds, identify the toxic waste, heavy metals, any radioactive substances, pharmaceuticals. You get the idea, right? So they wanted to do as comprehensive a review, but also quantifying everything. So they're urging international cooperation and policies designed to discourage marine discharge. Basically, don't treat the oceans as your cesspool. So Miguel Canals of the University of Barcelona, who's the PI, led the study. He states that marine litter has reached the most remote places in the ocean, even the least or never frequented by our species, and not yet mapped by science. In order to correct something bad, we must attack its cause, and the cause of the accumulation of waste on the coasts, seas, and oceans all over the planet is the excess waste generation and spillage in the environment and poor or insufficient management practices. As humans, we have little or no care at all to prevent litter from accumulating everywhere. That's a statement that's an indictment. And he's right. Until we change that attitude, until we get people to basically, out of sight, out of mind kind of stuff, we need to change that attitude. But that also means we need to step up recycling programs. We need to come up with different types of materials to, package whatever we are packaging. Right? You don't need, if you're buying a little LED light, you don't need to have it wrapped in this huge plastic thing that then wrapped in a huge box, whatever. There's so much waste with a lot of stuff that you buy. So we just have to do a change in the mindset. For example, there is at least a move away from styrofoam so that when you get your McDonald's burger, it's not in a styrofoam, but in some sort of a paper container. And I don't eat at McDonald's, okay? I'm just using that as an example. But, we just generate so much waste. And we are basically, this report's looking at what's going on in the ocean. We also got landfills. We got literally mountains of garbage. And going back to the oceans are already dying. Just the stratification alone, phytoplankton decreasing, which is decreasing the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, food webs collapsing. Many people on the planet rely on the marine environment for their protein. And with the oceans dying, productivity declining, that's going to lead to starvation issues. Now you start throwing in all this garbage and all this other shit, and we're just going to, And it takes a long time for a lot, especially plastics, it takes a long time for it to degrade, if ever, depending on the type of material. So these things are going to be persistent in the environment for some time, and we're just making a shit show of everything. It's really quite disgusting. So plastics are everywhere in the ocean, from the Arctic to the Antarctic, from coastal to the Marianas, the Mediterranean, from sizes less than 5 millimeters to sizes greater than 25 millimeters or larger, down to nanoplastics in our food. We're killing ourselves, and we're killing the planet. Right? How many times have you seen, where some organism gets entangled in a net, like a sea turtle gets entangled? Now it can't breathe; it drowns. Especially those monofilament lines. Very dire situation among everything else as well. But this is a topic that I follow, and I said that I would share the latest findings with you. Here you have it. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.